Hey, and welcome back to another video in my Vintage Tech Showcase playlist, the playlist of videos where I showcase vintage mobile devices, mainly mobile phones, but I will also be doing iPods pretty soon. And what I have for you today is the Motorola Atrix from 2011, the original Motorola Atrix, because there were a few iterations of this. This is the Motorola Atrix 4G from 2011, and there's a lot to talk about this phone because it was a pivotal point in mobile phone technology history, and I'll be getting to all the details in this video. But before we jump right in, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you already haven't. And don't forget to check out all my social media, which will be linked down in the description below. Alrighty, let's jump right into this video. So for just a bit of history, the Atrix was released in 2011 and was the world's first phone with 1 gig of RAM and the world's second phone to have a dual-core processor, the first being the LG Optimus 2X from 2011 as well, which was released a few months before the Atrix. The LG Optimus 2X has a Nvidia Tegra 2 processor, which is the world's first dual-core processor in a smartphone. The Motorola Atrix also has the same processor, but it was released a few months later, so it doesn't count as the first, but it's definitely the second phone with a dual-core processor. And since that thing has 512 megs of RAM, this is the world's first phone with 1 gig of RAM. Also, the Atrix was known for its accessories. It had a lot of laptop docks, table docks, car docks, a lot of lock-on accessories. It has a mini HDMI port there, and it could connect to a plethora of accessories that Motorola sold separately, and there were third-party accessories as well. This phone was very flexible, and it was basically something that you could consider a grandfather to the continuity thing that a lot of people do these days, where you can move stuff over from your laptop to your phone and move stuff over from your phone to your laptop to your PC. Apple is doing that in iOS 15, where they move, you can easily move projects between your iPad, your iPhone, and your MacBook and iMac. So you could do most of all those things on this back in 2011 with the laptop dock and stuff. You can basically convert this thing into a laptop, and you could move your stuff around. It had a lot of accessories, and it was really flexible, mostly aimed at heavy task, heavy duty business, etc. But a lot of people who just wanted a lot of power also bought this phone, because this phone is really powerful for its time. 1 gig of RAM, dual core processor, Nvidia Tegra 2. This was the powerhouse for a long time. For about until the Galaxy S2 was released, this was the world's most powerful phone. But when the Galaxy S2 was released, obviously it was more powerful. It had a more powerful processor than the Nvidia Tegra 2. But for some time, this thing was the world's most powerful phone and was a pivotal point in mobile phone processing history. I also almost forgot to mention the Motorola Atrix was probably the world's first Android phone with a fingerprint scanner, and it does predate the iPhone 5S. So yeah, contrary to what a lot of people think, the Motorola Atrix was before the iPhone 5S and had a fingerprint scanner before the iPhone 5S. As you can see, this is a fingerprint scanner mixed in there with the lock button. And it's not like a touch type fingerprint scanner. It's old school fingerprint scanner where you have to move your finger down like that. I would like to demo the fingerprint scanner for you, but like I said, this phone has a software issue. I'm pretty sure the fingerprint works on this, but this has a software issue. This thing's fingerprint scanner is not working. So we'll have to skip the fingerprint tutorial for now. But trust me, that is a fingerprint scanner. And it was somewhat accurate from what I can tell by looking at videos from back in 2011. And it is probably the first Android phone with a fingerprint scanner. However, it's not the world's first phone with a fingerprint scanner. That honor goes to a phone from around 2003, a Fujitsu flip phone. Sorry about that, my camera cut out. But what I was saying was the world's first phone with a fingerprint scanner was a Fujitsu flip phone from 2003-ish. And but this is probably the first Android phone with a fingerprint scanner. So I just wanted to put that in there because a lot of people think the iPhone 5S had a fingerprint scanner, was one of the first phones with a fingerprint scanner, but no, this predates the 5S by a couple of years. Now let's have a quick go around of the phone, and I'll use the other phone for this because this phone's a bit not in great condition, but this one's in better condition. However, this has a software issue, so I can't basically turn it on and show you, but I can use it as the go around phone. So up front we have the 4-inch display, which was huge for the time. Back in the day, that was considered to be a larger display, even though it's minuscule by today's standards. Pretty minimalist looking front, Motorola logo up top, front camera, speaker grill, display. We'll talk about the display in a bit. Quick settings, home, back, and finder, your old school Android touch buttons down there. At the back of the phone, we have the AT&T branding, Motorola Blur branding, because it is Android skinned with Motorola Blur. Speaker, camera with its dual LED flash, the fingerprint scanner / lock button up there, and there's another microphone over here. Up top we have the 3.5mm headphone jack and the fingerprint scanner / lock button. On this side we have the micro USB port and the mini HDMI port. On this side we have the volume rockers and nothing else. At the bottom we don't have anything either. And yeah, that was just a quick go around of the Motorola Atrix. Now let's jump to talking about the display. Okay, so now let's talk about the display on this thing. So like I said earlier, the display is a 4-inch display, so considered to be quite one of the biggest displays back in 2011. This is obviously minuscule by 2021 standards, but still for 2011, it was a huge display. 4-inch display, 540 by 960 pixels with a 16 by 9 aspect ratio and a pixel density of around 275 pixels per inch. It has Corning Gorilla Glass, probably Series 1, I cannot confirm, but definitely Corning Gorilla Glass 1. And it's the display was considered to be one of the most sensitive displays back in the day, that meaning the touchscreen. It was very responsive, and as you can see, I'm using it with a glove with no problem, and it was considered to be one of the better touchscreens back in 2011. The display itself, the colors are decent. Now you have to remember this is a TFT LCD display, so it's not the greatest. It's not like modern LCDs. However, it still produces decent amount of colors, and it was more than enough for 2011. The sunlight performance, because I took it out today to take some photos for this video, the sunlight performance on this display is amazing. You can almost see everything on the display even at medium brightness, so amazing sunlight performance. And I'd gladly use this display in 2021 without any issue, but obviously the colors and stuff aren't the greatest, but overall a very solid display for 2011. So now let's talk about software on this phone. Now this was a bit of a controversial thing back in the day, because this thing shipped with Android Gingerbread and it just got a few minor adjustment updates, but it did not get major updates. That thing was upgradable to Lollipop, and the Galaxy S2 was upgradable to, I think it was given 2 updates. I forgot up to where, but it was definitely given 2 major updates, and this thing was given Lollipop as well. So a lot of people were mad as to why Motorola didn't update the Atrix, because it was such a popular phone. When it shipped with 2.3 Gingerbread, they didn't give it a major update. The maximum update this phone has is 2.3.6 Gingerbread, and that's all it got. So a lot of people were visibly pissed. And since this phone was mostly on AT&T, I think that again the AT&T company was the one that decided, the telecommunication provider, they were the ones that decided the updates. Because back in the day, not every phone was getting a lot of updates, but they were still getting more than this. And these companies, AT&T and stuff, they thought of it as a way to push newer phones, to just sell newer phones by not giving the older ones updates. But now they do give updates, because a lot of people were criticizing them and stuff. Usually Motorola will ask them if they need the update, but then they say no because they just want to sell more phones. That was the case with a lot of the Droid phones by Verizon. Verizon Droid phones, they were not getting many updates, and people were really pissed because Verizon had full control over the Droid lineup. So I believe that was the case with the Atrix as well, but it did not get beyond 2.3.6, and a lot of people were really mad. Obviously XDA had custom ROMs for these things, but officially This thing ran only 2.3.6. Let me show you. Mine is updated to the max. So as you can see, it says Android version 2.3.6, as you can see there. There's also this conflicting information online that the final update gave it the ability to record video at 1080p. However, that's not true. Like, I couldn't find any information online that allows the camera to record video at 1080p, because this is stuck at 720p 30 fps. So the 1080p thing is a bit of a rumor. Maybe they wanted to do it, but eventually they canceled it, because even GSM Arenas in the page says that after a software update it'll be able to record video at 1080p. However, that's not the case. Everyone has said that they cannot record video at 1080p. I've checked online and stuff. You just can't. Even with the custom ROMs that the XDA people made for this phone, you still can't record video at 1080p. So yeah, that's just how it is. But anyway, Android 2.3.6 Gingerbread, it is running, obviously, as you can see at the back. It has MotoBlur, so the MotoBlur skin, a more professional looking skin from back in the day, because the more fun skins were like in Sony and Samsung and stuff. They were colorful and stuff. Motorola was going for a more professional, businessy kind of look, because as you can see, the apps look very professional. They're squared off and they're very dull on the color. So that was the theme Motorola had on their MotoBlur skin back in 2010, 2011, 2012. It's only now that they're sticking to a more stock Android look than MotoBlur, because they've completely cancelled MotoBlur, and there's no such thing as MotoBlur anymore. Also the annoying MotoBlur account login, which a lot of people hated, and I actually had to bypass it on this phone. But yeah, that is the operating system on the Motorola Atrix 4G, Android 2.3.6 Gingerbread, which is the final update. Now let's talk about what powers this phone, because like I mentioned earlier, it was the world's first phone with a 1 gig of RAM, and the second phone with a dual-core processor, and it was a bit more powerful than the LG Optimus 2X and way more capable than the 2X, so it was considered as the top dog in 2011 when it comes to power. So in the Atrix, basically what's powering the Motorola Atrix is the Nvidia Tegra 2 dual-core processor clocked in at 1 gigahertz. It is on the Motorola Atrix, it's the AP20H version. So the Atrix had a bunch of versions. Obviously, it wasn't the same version as it was on the LG Optimus 2X. So it's the Nvidia Tegra 2 AP20H. AP, or you can say AP20H or whatever, AP20H version of the Nvidia Tegra 2. Again, dual core processor clocked in at 1 gigahertz. It has a ULP GeForce graphics processor as well, that again by Nvidia. Again, like I said, 1 gig of RAM, the world's first phone with 1 gig of RAM. It has 16 gigs of internal memory and a micro SD card slot for expansion as well. So it was definitely the most powerful phone back for some time in 2011. Like I said, a lot of accessories, laptop docks, stuff, and all sorts of stuff. Basically, you could extend your phone to basically turn it into a laptop with the docks. A lot of business people love this phone, but then again, it was held behind by its lack of software updates, and that's what pissed off a lot of people. But nevertheless, it was still the most capable phone of 2011, and a lot of people loved it for it. It was praised by TechRadar and all the other websites and called it a beast, which it actually is. When you put yourself in the shoes of an owner from 2011, this was the best you can get in terms of power. Dual core processor, 1 gig of RAM was 1 gig of RAM was just overkill at the time, but they just wanted to include it so that it could run more apps in the background and stuff. Basically making it the most powerful phone at the time. But then the Samsung Galaxy S2 was released, and then everything was that was competition to be the most powerful phone, but Samsung easily won that because they could stuff more power in their phones because of their engineering capabilities. And Motorola now mostly sticks to the budget end of the market. Most of their phones are aimed at the budget market with careers and stuff and that, and they're doing a really amazing job with that. The Motorola G Stylus, the Motorola G8, they're amazing phones at amazing prices, great specs, etc, etc. But this is what Motorola was capable back in 2011. the most powerful phone for a certain period of time back in 2011, which it was known for and which a lot of people still talk about today. When they think about the Motorola Atrix, they're still pissed about the software update thing, but still, when you look at what this phone was capable of, it definitely is a worthy contender for one of the pivotal points in mobile phone history when considering power and specifications. Alright, so now let's move on to the rear-facing camera. So it has a 5-megapixel autofocus camera with a dual LED single-tone flash. So dual LED but still single-tone. 5-megapixel camera, autofocus, can record video at 720p at 30 fps. Now, like I said earlier, there was this conflict between all these articles online saying that through a software update you can do 1080p 30 fps. However, that's not true. GSM Arena has got it wrong on their page. They say it's 1080p, it's capable of recording video at 1080p after a software update. However, that's not the case, and a lot of people confirm this. There's no way the Nvidia Tegra 2 could handle 1080p video. Not that it physically can't, it's just not coded and made to basically handle 1080p video recording. This phone can play 1080p video downscaled, obviously, because the resolution is not 1080p. So it can downscale and play 1080p. However, you cannot record 1080p video on this, despite what GSM Arena tells you. Pretty decent camera. It's not the greatest. It wasn't the greatest camera back in the day. Again, at that time, we had the Nokia N8. The Nokia N9 was around the corner, I think. So Nokia had the upper hand in cameras. Apple was just about to release the iPhone 4S, which was the basically the first iPhone with a decent camera. The iPhone 4's camera was basically destroyed by the Nokia N8's camera. However, the iPhone 4S was probably the first true contender from Apple when in terms of the camera department when compared with Nokia. This thing's camera was decent. I'll show you a bunch of pictures I took during the day, and I'll show you a video sample as well, shot at 720p. Decent camera samples, nothing too much, nothing too horrible, but nothing too major either. Just a pretty decent camera from 2011. The front camera on this thing, I'll put a few photos in there as well. It's just a simple VGA camera, nothing too major. Back in the day, video calling was limited to VGA because of the telecommunication restrictions. Because 4G had started, because obviously it's the Motorola Atrix 4G, but still 4G was in somewhat of an infancy back in the day, so you couldn't really stream full 1080p video off your front camera, and there was no front cameras with 1080p video recording capability, even 720 video recording capability. So this is a simple VGA camera for basic video calling back in 2011. So now let's roll the camera samples from the rear camera, followed by the 720p 30 fps video sample as well. So now let's roll the camera samples. So in terms of additional specs, now, like I said, this phone was loaded with additional things, accessories, plugins, etc., etc. So many things you could do with this phone. Again, with relevance to 2011, it's not even close to the stuff that you can do today with phones. However, back in 2011, this thing was a beast. The fingerprint scanner, like I said, I cannot demo it for you because this one's broken and that thing has a software update, a software issue. But this fingerprint scanner was pretty decent. It was pretty accurate. You had to hold it like that and basically slide your finger down. It's not a tap fingerprint scanner, obviously. So you had to like slide your finger down like that. It was pretty decent if you watch the videos from back in the day, it was pretty decent in terms of accuracy. So it wasn't too bad with that. So the rest of the features in this phone include a pretty decent sized battery. It was a 1930 milliamp hour battery, so pretty decent for the time. Actually one of the biggest, because back in the day batteries weren't too big, but this the battery on this phone, the 1390 milliamp hour battery, was more than sufficient to power this phone throughout the day and power it through all its accessories and stuff as well. It had standby time up to 400 hours on 2G and 350 hours on 3G, and talk time up to 8 hours and about 8 hours and 45 minutes, 8 hours, maybe 9 hours on 2G, and about 9.5 hours on 3G. So it was a very good performer when it comes to battery life, because of obviously it was focused more on productivity and business, so it did have to have a good battery life as well. It also has a mini HDMI port, as you can see there, for its docking needs. So you can also use this as a phone to plug to your projector or your presentation. You can do presentations on this phone. A lot of people in business and in basically, the business industry, and probably high school kids do use this phone to run their PowerPoint presentations. You could do all that stuff on this phone, PowerPoint, document editors, all that stuff. You could do it on this phone and output it with the HDMI connector over there. And you can just slide it into your dock and plug the HDMI to the dock as well. You can go check out all the dock accessories this phone had. There was a lot of them. It's too much to list. Motorola had about 5, but then all the third-party manufacturers manufactured a lot for this phone as well. So definitely a lot of expansion for this phone, and it was quite unheard of back in the day, because not every phone had the ability to basically power all those things. But with this phone's dual-core processor and 1 gig of RAM, it was capable of doing all that stuff. So like I said, it has a document editor and all that stuff, photo editor, Adobe Flash, all the good stuff that you would need back in the day. It only shipped in one color, that is black. So it only had this color, with the pattern at the back, the carbon fiber pattern. So it was not like a very flashy phone, but it was pretty decent for what it was, because it was a business phone, it was a professional phone. It did not have to be flashy. It did its job more than perfectly. So yeah, that's about all that I can cover on the Motorola Atrix in this retro review. I think I put up earlier in the card above my older retro review of the Motorola Atrix. You can go watch that if you want as well, because that's a bit old and I have not done that properly to this kind of quality, but you still can go watch it. It's more content for you. I put more camera samples and stuff as I remember. And it's a bit of a longer video. It wasn't scripted or anything, so it's a bit of a mess, but you can go watch that if you like. This is the end to this video, and I thank you for watching it. And as usual, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you already haven't. And let me know down in the comment section below which phone do you want to see next in a retro sort of review in my vintage tech playlist of videos. So yeah, and also don't forget to check out my social media down in the description below. Thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.